Hey, welcome back to Landy Land. A couple of weeks ago, I put new brake shoes into Sandy the Landy and I couldn't get them to adjust properly. No matter how far I turned the adjusters, I couldn't get them to give me a firm braking action.
Now the reason for that is that brand new shoes are a certain thickness and your drum is a certain diameter. You're faced with a situation where when you put your foot on the brakes, the shoes can't push out far enough to put a decent pressure against the drum. So I'm faced with a quick and easy task today. I'm going to remove the wheel and take the brake drum off, and I'll replace that with a pair of new brake drums that I've just got from the local supplier.
Now the tools you'll need for doing a job like this are a soft-faced hammer if you've got one, if not an ordinary hammer and a block of wood. But get the biggest hammer you've got, because tippy-tappy's not going to do it. You really need to thump these things sometimes.
The second tool you're going to need is an impact driver.
An impact driver is like a super heavy duty screwdriver, but the trick is it has a coarse helix thread inside the handle, so that when you put it into a screw head and hit it with a hammer, it provides either a left hand or a right hand sharp twist, depending on how you set it. So the brake drum's held on with 3 screws, and you'll need the largest flat driver that you've got. If you haven't got one of these, what you can do is just hit the screw head firmly, possibly putting something in between so that you can get a decent swing at it. Do that to each screw, and that will just loosen them off and make them a lot easier to undo. You'll see the short, sharp twist that this thing prescribes as I hit each one. And now we can remove these quite easily. Now it's only 3 or 4 weeks ago that I had these off, so it's not hard in my case, but if you've got something that's been driven through the tide or streams and it's a bit seized up, you're going to have to get in there with some penetrating oil before you even start. So hit around with a soft face hammer to loosen it off, and then what you do next is you'll find a set of other holes in the brake drum
that hold the drum onto the hub, and then you'll find either 1 or 2 non-tapered ones with a thread in them. Those you use the same screw in that hole and screw it up, and what it will do is lift the drum away from the hub. You'll have to work your way around, tapping here and there and just working it with a screwdriver, maybe half a turn at a time, and then a few more taps to loosen it up, and then perhaps another half a turn on the screw, and slowly
there's the tapered one.
The drum will climb off the hub.
As you go, I can feel it just inching off slightly each time. And that's it. It'll come off this time. Okay, so now here we have the old drum, which is not too badly scored, but the problem is it's out of diameter. So as I said earlier, the shoes can't expand far enough to make the brakes work. Plenty of meat on these new shoes. So after blowing any excess dust out of the cavity here, I'm ready to fit the new drum. I think what I've got here is the last Land Rover brake drum in the country. I managed to get a pair of them from one of the suppliers. Supply chains are closing down for a lot of things. There's so much stuff that's not available in New Zealand right now. But when you get this, it'll have a light oil over it. So grab yourself some brake cleaner, or even carburetor cleaner if you haven't got brake cleaner, and give this thing a clean out just to make sure no contamination gets onto your brake shoes. So that's nice and clean. I'll paint the outside of this once I've got it on. But these need to be fitted so that the tapered holes line up with one of the threaded holes. And you'll see immediately the old one came off quite easily. This one won't fit on. That's because the diameter's smaller, and that's exactly what we need. So I'm going to have to wind the shoes in to get this one to fit. So I'm going to have to adjust the shoes inwards. You do that with the large nut adjuster on the back that's just here. These are called a single leading shoe style. The V8s and the 109s have a double leading shoe type, which provides better braking. Now you'll be able to see when I put the spanner on the adjuster here that a snail cam pushing against a peg on the shoe winds the shoe in and out. And it gets to a maximum and drops straight back in again. That's the limit that I've got to with new shoes and a worn drum. So we're going to knock it back to zero, make sure the shoes are in, refit the drum, making sure that one of the tapered holes is against the threaded hole. And you see how easy it went on that time? Now we can just secure the drum. Now this drum only has one tapered hole, so that can go in my useful box for another time. And we'll just adjust the brakes up, which is really easy. Yeah, we're going to rotate it round. We're going to rotate the adjuster until the drum locks and give it a little nip up to centralise the shoes, and then we're going to back it off until the drum rotates freely again. There we go, and that's the brakes adjusted, ready for the wheel to go back on after I've painted this area here. Simple as that. And there we go. Once I've painted this area here, the wheel can go back on and we can do a road test, and the road test will let me know how the balance is between the two brakes, if it pulls to one side or the other, and I can make slight adjustments then.
Now I'm going to go and see if I can get the garden fairies to paint the hub while I go and have a coffee. There we go.
Now you might remember that video where I zinc plated my nuts. That was about a year ago. So I've left my nuts outside for a year. They've had no nut love whatsoever. And I'm quite happy with how durable the heavy duty zinc plating has been. You have to add brighteners and things to get a nice shiny finish. and I didn't experiment with that because I was after durable. So I left everything in the bath a little bit longer than they recommend to get a heavier coating, and it loses the gloss that it gets when you only put a very thin coating on. But for durability, I'm real happy with this. If I get 3 to 5 years out of it, I can just chuck them back in and give them another strip and clean. I've been experimenting in lots of other videos with various methods of rust removal and rust protection. So if you're a Land Rover owner, you'll certainly benefit from looking at those videos. Everything from sandblasting through to zinc plating and some really old school paint that is still just the absolute duck's nuts. It really is. That's called gilsonite. Look that up. So you see, that doesn't take long, 5 or 10 minutes to put a new brake drum on. I've done both sides, given in behind the drums a quick clean out, and readjusted the brakes. As a Land Rover owner, it's something that you will have to learn how to do, because like most modern cars, Land Rover brakes aren't self-adjusting. You do have to get under here about every 6 months and just give them a tweak up. So I hope this video has been helpful. If you'd like to see more of this stuff, join the channel. The button's down below, down there. Land Rovers aren't like modern cars that have self-adjusting brakes. You do need to get down on your knees once every 6 months or so and give them a tickle up. Once you've done it once, it's real quick and easy. All that's left for me to do now is drop this down onto the ground, give it a road test, and just make sure that it's not pulling to one side or another, and I'll give the brakes a fine fettling in and a tickle up. So if the video was useful to you, why not subscribe to the channel? I've got playlists full of Land Rover information. Having a handful of Land Rovers means that I've had to learn an awful lot of diverse skills, but it's been well worth it in the end because I can pass those skills on to you. So if you're the kind of person who likes to rebuild, recycle and restore, this is just the channel for you.